All right, let's go ahead and check out Knowledge Check 12.4.1. And what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and take a look at the TidyR data that is table 2. Before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to load TidyR, and then we're going to load dplyr. We don't necessarily need dplyr for most of the focus of this knowledge check, except to do some summary statistics towards the end. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at table. Let's see, we're looking at, let me remind myself here, table 2. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at this, and we can see we have 4 columns right now: country, year, type, and count. And the question is this tidy, is it not? In this case, I would say it is not, and that's because we actually have 2 different type of variables here that we are including values for, but within the same column. So ideally, we'd like to have cases as its own column and population as its own column, with the values for each of those falling under that column header. All right, number 2 here says compute the cases to population ratio for each country by year. All right, so because of the format this data is in, this can be done, but it's extremely tedious, and so much so that we're not going to go through it here. That is an exercise you can do on your own if you really want to, but it kind of illustrates the importance of being able to pivot our data from longer to wider or wider to longer to solve some of these problems. All right, so we're going to jump right to number 3. Now pivot this data so that it is tidy with 4 columns: country, year, cases, and population. All right, so to do that, we're going to use, well, first of all, let's look at table 2, and we're going to use what we call pivot wider. Right, so we're trying to take this data frame from a longer format and add columns so it's wider. And what we want our columns to be is country, year, cases, and population. Right. So let's go ahead and take a look at pivot wider. And we see we have several variables here, but the primary things we're looking at are, we are going to be looking at the names from. So let's go ahead, we'll call that names from. And what this is basically we are telling it what column are we going to take the values to represent the names of the new columns. All right, so here we're going to go ahead and take type, because we want our new columns to be cases and then population. And then what we're going to do is actually take values from, and I want to take the values from count, and I want to go ahead and use those values to fill in the new column values. So when we run that, now we can see we have our 4 columns. We have our cases, and we've taken the values that align to each of the cases here and so on, and we have filled those in under that column. And population, we have done so as well. All right, so now let's go ahead and jump to number 4. Using the pipe operator to chain together a sequence of functions, perform number 3, and then compute the cases to population ratio for each country by year. All right, so now what we can do, since we have this information, is we can go ahead and we can do mutate. And what we want to do is go ahead and, let's see, we'll do cases, cases, population, ratio. It's a long name, but we're just going to go with it. And so now what we do is we're going to take cases to population, and when we compute that, now we see for each country and each year we have the number of cases to population as a ratio.